Activision, Microsoft, Nvidia. These are three companies we're going to take a closer look at in today's episode. And I'm mentioning I'm joined by an amazing co-host, Ryan Henderson, who's going to help me discuss companies in the gaming market and also the Metaverse market, or however you guys want to see, entertainment stocks, the list can go on. So welcome, Ryan. Good morning, good afternoon. I know you're in the West Coast, so I think it might be morning for you still, right?
I would call this morning. Yeah, it's about 11:30 over here. It's late morning, but yeah, I'm excited to do this. We both have some, I think, pretty fun topics, so I'm ready to get this thing started.
Definitely. So for all the viewers, we're going to start off with topic number one, and Ryan's going to talk a little bit about this Activision, and also the acquisition with Microsoft.
Activision, it's a company that a lot of people are familiar with. They are probably the biggest independent publisher. They are the biggest independent publisher. I think it depends if you include Tencent in there, but the biggest independent publisher of video games, and they're most well known for their Call of Duty brand. There's also some other ones under their umbrella, but the three big segments are Activision, which is responsible for Call of Duty, also like Crash Bandicoot. Some people kind of know that one. It's kind of a funky looking character that people might recognize. Then the second one is Blizzard Entertainment, which they actually, in 2008, they merged with Vivendi Games, who owned the Blizzard brand. And so some of the titles that they're popular for are like World of Warcraft, Overwatch, Diablo is another one as well. And so though that one has a smaller total user base, so it doesn't apply to quite as much people. It doesn't have as big of a net in terms of customers. It's really high paying customers that really care about the games, kind of immerse themselves in the games, and I guess are just kind of the higher spending audience. And then the third one is King Games, which they acquired in 2015, I believe, for $5.9 billion. King Games is the maker of Candy Crush. They have a couple of easy, casual mobile games that are just really easy to play, aren't too commanding, and you can kind of play them, while or in between your other tasks. And so that's basically, they make money on that through sort of a la carte transactions. So kind of, the typical little 99 cents for a new life, that kind of thing, upgrading for new lives or whatever. So that's kind of the basics of the business. King Games is very profitable. There's some lumpiness in the Activision side of things because, they earn more after a big game release as opposed to before. But all in all, those are sort of the three primary segments. As a lot of people know, I believe it was just over a year ago now, that Microsoft announced their intention to acquire Activision. And so that deal has kind of come under regulatory scrutiny as of late. And basically what I'm trying to, I'll try to kind of parse out here is whether or not, A, I think the deal will go through, and then B, what happens if it doesn't. So for starters, on kind of the likelihood of the deal passing, I don't have a whole lot of expertise in this area, but as far as I can tell, there are basically three parties that are preventing or Microsoft is waiting on approval from currently. And so it's the UK Regulatory Authority, the FTC, and the EU. And a lot of them have shared concerns. And so UK regulators on February 8th, they came out and they said they're concerned about the anti-competitive nature of the deal, and they highlighted specifically two items: cloud gaming and exclusive games. So first, they were concerned that if Call of Duty came to Game Pass, it would potentially create a virtual monopoly in cloud gaming, because Game Pass could likely get a ton of market share. And so shortly after, Microsoft announced a 10-year deal with Nvidia to bring all Xbox and Activision games to GeForce Now. That's Nvidia's cloud gaming service. So I think that puts the first item basically to rest, is that they aren't trying to make these exclusive to Game Pass or anything like that. And so that likely puts to rest one of the concerns. The second one is that exclusive games. As for that part, they also announced a 10-year deal with Nintendo to bring all COD games to the platform. I know right now not that many people probably play COD on like the original Switch, but there's likely going to be higher graphic quality iterations of the Switch that come out in the next few years, and so maybe COD will be a little more popularly played on those games. So I think that really kind of puts at least two of the primary concerns to rest. And it also, if you're looking at it from the regulatory lens, you've basically done your job where you've given concessions so that the deal is not as anti-competitive, but you also let capitalism function and the acquisition go through. So you're kind of I guess it's a win-win in the eyes of the regulators. But to kind of just do the math here, for anyone that's buying this because they think the deal will go through, and I would say I think there's a good likelihood that it does. That's my personal opinion. Right now, Activision stock trades at just under $76 a share. It changes every day. So as of this recording, it's $76 a share. The acquisition price for Activision is $95 a share in cash. And so basically the spread there is right around 25%. So EU regulators just extended their deadline for approval until April 25th. So you've got potentially 25% upside in really a couple of months. However, if the deal breaks, it's important to know what you're getting, because there is the possibility that, the deal doesn't go through. For reference, UK regulators blocked Facebook's proposed acquisition of Giphy a couple years back. I mean, it really is kind of unpredictable what regulators can do. So over the last 12 months, this is kind of to put Activision in perspective. Over the last 12 months, Activision generated just over $2 billion in free cash flow. Their market cap at the current price is basically $60 billion. So you'd be paying 28 times last year's cash flow, which is pretty expensive, especially relative to some of the peers. For reference, EA trades, I think, around like 20 times. However, Activision has a lot of cash that's just sitting on the balance sheet right now, $8 billion in net cash. And if the deal doesn't go through, depending on when the deal shutters, they would get a break fee from Microsoft, which would be more cash on the balance sheet. So you're looking at a much lower enterprise value than the actual market cap. So there's a big spread there, and it's kind of, if the deal breaks and the stock drops, they've got potentially $10 or $11 billion in cash. They can do something with that, probably buy back some shares or give money to shareholders in some way. And then on top of that, they actually just had a really good launch, Activision did, with Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. And they're expected to have earnings really inflect next year. Bookings were up, I want to say, more than 40% this quarter, and so you'll see revenue kind of grow and have that trickle throughout next year. And so it looks like they're operating really well. Obviously, there's some lumpiness to the business, given that Call of Duty can kind of fall in and out of favor depending on other games that are released. That's just kind of the nature of the gaming business. But I think if you're comfortable owning Activision Blizzard at kind of potentially mid-teens earnings multiple on next year, then you get some upside here and potentially a decent business. Even the stock might drop in the short term. I think there's very high likelihood that happens if the deal breaks, but I think it's still a pretty good business. There are obviously some cultural issues, but all in all, I think there'd be some. I would be comfortable being an Activision shareholder here.
Before we go any further, I want to thank you for watching, and I need your help to reach my goal of 30,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So if you can do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and thumbs up. Also, if you want some fantastic insight into the semiconductor industry, join my other channel, Semiconductor Investing and More, where I use my electrical engineering background to break down the semiconductor market. Finally, I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for their subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode. Yeah, thank you for that, Ryan. And I want to say, thinking about it, if the deal doesn't go through, and if it doesn't go through, I think both Activision and both Microsoft will be fine. Obviously, if as together, it would be a stronger company, but independently, I think both of them will be fine. And I do believe Phil Spencer, which is the president, I believe he's the president of the gaming segment here in Microsoft, recently had an interview. And in there, he mentioned 2 points. One of the most important points is, hey, if Microsoft acquisition doesn't go through, we're going to be fine. The second thing, Ryan, that he mentioned, he talked a lot about regulators. And he says that most of the time in his gaming career, when he's looking at government regulators, they don't know too much about the gaming market and really how this is going to impact the overall economy. So, or the gaming economy to some extent. So sometimes he's worried that, hey, because of the lack of knowledge, and he does mention that he tries to educate those that don't know, but sometimes because of the lack of knowledge of regulators sometimes in this market, and I feel like that happens a lot in the overall tech market right now, when maybe the regulators might not have too much knowledge in the space, that it can lead to an unpredictable answer of what's going to happen from here. um any final thoughts, Ryan?
No, I think that's accurate. I mean, really, the only company that's still clearly opposing the deal seems to be Sony, which is Xbox's primary competitor. And I kind of find it ironic because Sony's winning in the console market. They are the leader, um, and so it seems like I don't know if I necessarily. I don't think Microsoft turns into a monopoly because of this. Um, and I think you're right. Both businesses would be fine if the deal doesn't go through. However, I would be concerned um, on potentially maybe some of the cultural issues at Activision. Maybe those
Mhm.
start to resurface. There might be a number of employees that are kind of holding out, thinking, um, well, we're about to be a part of Microsoft, so maybe some of that stuff that was a big concern last year will be alleviated when we're a part of the bigger company, because Bobby Kotick will be, I believe, he will depart from the company once the acquisition goes through. Maybe there's some employee turnover if that happens, and it reflects or it shows up in game delays or something like that.
Definitely. Thank you for that, Ryan. So I think we'll move on to topic number two. And for topic number two, I think it's actually going to be it's a great segue from topic number one. I'm going to take a closer look at Microsoft and Nvidia and a little bit more of the gaming subscription side. Ryan, one thing that I think Microsoft at the beginning of 2022 or 2021, no, sorry, at the beginning of 2022, they gave us the number of Game Pass subscribers. We haven't seen that number updated anytime soon until recently. I believe in November, Sony, due to that acquisition, was saying that, hey, Microsoft, like you mentioned, is really gaining on this clouding market. So they gave us an update that Microsoft has roughly 28 to 29 million subscribers in the Game Pass market. So pretty interesting to see. I do want to talk a little bit about Nvidia side and how maybe as a gamer, this is going to be the best way to kind of get a supercomputer or a nice gaming rig without having to pay that gaming rig price. So I want to explain a little bit about each segment. Let's go. Let me move on to the next slide. First, Nvidia. Nvidia has this subscription called GeForce Now, and here with their subscription service, what you're pretty much doing is renting out the power of a supercomputer gaming rig, and all you need is a high-speed computer. And I have the different kind of memberships that they have. You can get the priority for 50 every 6 months, or you can get the ultimate, which you're using some crazy 4080, I believe, on their rigs for $100 every 6 months or $200 a year. So pretty much all you need is $100 laptop and kind of stream this high performance power if you have that high speed internet. For those not familiar, in quarter four of fiscal year 2023, NVIDIA's most recent earnings, the company announced that GeForce Now, their cloud gaming service, now has more than 25 million members in over 100 countries. I do want to say, if we do take a closer look to the left side, there is a free membership. We don't know exactly how many are paid users, but at least they are familiar with the platform. And also, this GeForce Now does fall under NVIDIA's gaming segment, so it can definitely help to some extent, maybe not by much, but at least help somewhat the fall of the gaming market, as we are seeing kind of GPUs continue to dwindle in price with overcorrection. So that's NVIDIA's GeForce Now selection. Next, let me talk about Microsoft's Game Pass. So the Game Pass, right now, Microsoft has a few subscriptions, which could get a little tricky. They have Xbox Live, which has over 100 million users. Again, that doesn't necessarily mean they are paying users, but Xbox Live normally is about $9.99 a month, and this allows you to play multiplayer games on their ecosystem. Then you have Xbox Game Pass. Like I mentioned, in January of 2022, we found out from Microsoft that they had over 25 million users because of this regulation push and Sony really trying to prevent it. They do mention that Xbox Game Pass has now closer to 28 to 29 million, overpassing what Sony has in their Sony Plus service for it. So they're saying, hey, if this acquisition goes through, they're going to continue to be this huge leader in this space. For those not familiar, quarter two, Microsoft just reported their quarter two fiscal year 2023 earnings. The gaming revenue was down 13%, but they do mention that there is some offset in part by growth in Xbox Game Pass subscription. At the end of the day, I don't think for Nvidia or Microsoft anytime soon we're going to see some impressive revenue that would drive our earnings or drive numbers, but it is just another solution within that space. And this falls under Microsoft's personal computing. And most recently, Ryan, Microsoft did announce that they're planning on bringing PC Game Pass available in 40 new countries that weren't available. They did announce that, I believe, on February 28th or 27th. We can see February. The PC Game Pass normally is about $9.99 a month. The Xbox Game Pass is normally $9.99 a month, or you can bundle them all together for the Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, which is roughly $15 a month. So beyond, I have one more slide here that I want to show, Ryan. But beforehand, any thoughts here on the subscription market right now that we're seeing here in the gaming space? Before we go any further, I want to thank you for watching, and I need your help to reach my goal of 30,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So if you can do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and thumbs up. Also, if you want some fantastic insight into the semiconductor industry, join my other channel, Semiconductor Investing and More, where I use my electrical engineering background to break down the semiconductor market. Finally, I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for their subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
No, I find it surprising. I was surprised to see how much members GeForce Now had, because I guess I don't hear about it talked as much kind of in the gaming community. Some of those might be those free members that you mentioned, but I really do think, just when I kind of look at the gaming landscape as a whole, particularly within the console market, cloud just makes the most sense. It's a much cheaper way to access high quality games, and I think one of the positives of cloud, beyond making it just like a clear subscription, is that you widen the reach with how many people can now access your games potentially, which I think would be a huge benefit to companies like EA and Activision, who publish these higher quality AAA type games. If you have someone that's able to play with, like you said, $100 computer and play via these cloud subscriptions or cloud services, or even if you take like a smart TV or something like that, and all you need is the controller and the Bluetooth connection, that definitely makes it more accessible than having to buy that $500 console and each game individually. So I think there's a lot of promise here. Obviously, consoles still kind of lead in a big way, but it's cool to see that Game Pass number continue to tick up.
Definitely, Ryan. And I think to kind of show this, the money savings that this can offer to a lot of consumers, and like you mentioned, it also opens up the opportunity of more gamers coming into the platform. My final slide, I have kind of this Nvidia plus Microsoft, the cheapest gaming setup available right now. I'm taking a closer look more in the PC side, but obviously it can kind of be seen maybe also in the console side. But like we previously talked about in topic number one, Microsoft and Nvidia announced a 10-year partnership to bring Xbox PC games to the Nvidia GeForce Now cloud gaming service. So I want to say a top PC gaming rig can probably run you $1,500 at least. I'm pretty sure there's some that you're paying $2,200, $2,300, or even beyond that price point. Now I kind of wanted to bring the scenario where, hey, let me get the top tier of NVIDIA supercomputer. For 12 months, it's roughly $200 a year. And then let me get 12 months of PC Game Pass, $120 with a huge catalog of games. So for a total of $320 a year, Ryan, I can have the best gaming rig and I can have a huge catalog of games, opposed to paying the $1,500 for the PC gaming rig and then have to buy individual games themselves and play them through after paying that that $50-$60 price per game. So Ryan, before I close out this episode, any thoughts here on the values and numbers I just shared?
No, I mean, you mentioned it with the within the PC market, how much cost savings there are, but you could even imagine it, and I think I'm not sure if the functionality's there yet, but even like an iPad or a Microsoft Surface, where you could play with something like that and have uh, Bluetooth connected device. That's a much cheaper setup than either a high end gaming rig or a physical console. But um, I'm curious. I haven't played any of the cloud gaming services. Have you interacted with them at all?
Yeah, so I actually have a subscription of Microsoft Game Pass, and for me, it's so beneficial because I'm paying like $14 a month, and I'm not a huge gamer, but now I have the opportunity. Hey, if because Microsoft Game Pass also has cloud games within there, so if I'm waiting for somewhere, I don't even need to install. I can play from my phone. I've also tried Nvidia's GeForce Now. Super subscription. But to me, I feel like that's more for if you are a heavy gamer and you want that true power rig experience. And at the moment, I didn't need that, so I ended up canceling it. But for in my side, I'm in the East Coast in a very kind of city area, so everything was running really smooth on my side, Ryan.
All right, makes sense. Yeah, no, I think that's pretty comprehensive. You can see it's slow, but clearly the cloud gaming industry is growing in terms of adoption from users.
Yeah, and it's pretty crazy, right? We had unfortunately the loss of one player here, Google, with their Stadia. So it's definitely still in early stages to some extent, where even the big tech themselves can kind of lose out in this match.
Yeah, and I think it's a testament to just the I guess staying power of the businesses that are already prominent in the gaming industry. I think Luna, which is Amazon's cloud gaming division, just announced kind of a number of layoffs there was broad Amazon layoffs that I believe were focused in the Luna division. So yeah, I think it's a testament to Microsoft, Nvidia, and Sony.
Yeah, definitely. So, Ryan, I think that's it for today's episode. I want to thank you for joining us. And for all the viewers, I'll post links below where you can find Ryan. He has an amazing podcast. So make sure to check that out. All the information will be on the pinned comment. So make sure to show some love.